are live tonight at Bracken Cave, which is the home to the largest colony of bats in the world. Bracken Cave is located just outside of San Antonio, Texas. It's owned and protected by Bat Conservation International. And here in the next few minutes, we're going to have a bat flight from this maternity roost of Mexican free-tailed bats. So they'll be starting up any minute. We already have some predators coming into the area. There's a number of red-tailed hawks, Swainson's hawks, and peregrine falcons that are flying overhead. And somebody wandered by that's here to eat bats tonight. This is a western coach whip. This is one of the predator snakes that comes out to catch bats for dinner. This guy, he's only about 4.5 feet long. We've got some that are over 6 feet long. Western coach whip is one of the fastest snakes in North America, and he'll eat 5 or 6 bats before the night is over. So, but he's pretty cool. He's just sitting there. They're non-venomous, but yeah, he's really, the coloring on him blends in really well with the rocks that we have here in the sinkhole. But this is a Western coach whip, and you are nose to nose with a Western coach whip. He just stuck his tongue at y'all. But no, we really want to thank everybody for being here. This is Bat Appreciation Day, and we're just celebrating it with a live broadcast here from Bracken Cave. So there'll be time for questions. So send us some of your questions in the comments, and we'll try to get as many answered as we can. Before the bats start coming out, we're going to kind of go over. I'm going to let the snake go because he doesn't want to be held anymore. And we're going to talk about bats. So there's over 1,400 species of bats all over the world. And bats come in all shapes and sizes and colors and eat all kinds of different things. And so the biggest bat that we have is a golden crowned flying fox. And it's as big as this little felt display that I have here. So he's got a 6-foot wingspan. They eat fruit. And you'll see down here in the corner, that's one of the smallest bat. It's called a bumblebee bat or kitty hognose bat. And we also have some of the other bats that we have here in Texas. Hoary bat on the left, Mexican free-tailed bat right here. But it gives you an idea how big and how small some of the bats are that we have all over the world. Now, bats eat all kinds of different things. So the bats that we have here in Texas are insectivores. So these Mexican free-tailed bats are going to eat a lot of bugs tonight. Actually, they're going to eat over 150 tons of bugs tonight, which is amazing that they can eat that many bugs. But these are pregnant females. This is a maternity roost, so they're going to be really hungry so they can raise their young. Some of the other things that bats will eat, besides agricultural pests like the Mexican free-tailed bat, but beetles and grasshoppers, moths, other flying insects. Some of our bats, like our pallid bat, like to eat scorpions. And we actually have some carnivorous bats in the world, like our ghost-faced bat. Some of our bats are fruit bats, and they're real important for spreading seeds from different plants all over the landscape. When they're flying away after they're eating something, they're spitting out the seeds, or they're pooping out the seeds. There's over 500 varieties of plants all over the world that rely on bats to pollinate them or seed dispersals. So we have I think we got a question.
Can you say how many species of bats there are?
There are 1,466 species of bats all over the world. North America has 44 species of bats, and Texas alone has 32 different species of bats just here in Texas. But besides pollinating and fruit bats, so pollinators are important. For example, tequila plants, not tequila plants, agave plants, which is where we get tequila from. Those bats pollinate agave flowers, which is where we get a lot of our tequila and mezcal from. That makes it important. Bananas, wild bananas is another example of another plant that rely on bats to pollinate them. Like I said, don't forget to, if you're interested in a lot more information about bats in your area where to go see bats, go to our website, batcon.org, and we have information about different species in different areas. Also, information about what the research projects and the work we're doing. And you also can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and other social media platforms as well. So, but back to bats. So, besides bats live in all kinds of different places. We have them everywhere but the Arctic and Antarctic. And most people are familiar with caves. And we have a lot, for example, the Bracken Cave that we have behind us, um, and the millions of bats that are calling it home. But bats roost in other places besides caves. So most of our species of bats actually in Texas roost in trees. So they'll be in tree cavities or hanging from the branches. They kind of look like dead leaves when they're roosting in the tree tops. Some of our fruit bats will also roost in trees as well as caves. But so those are some of the different habitats that bats will roost in. Also, the man-made structures. So, like our Mexican free-tailed bats here in Texas, besides living in caves, bat houses, abandoned buildings, they also will roost in bridges and the expansion joints and a lot of our bridges up and down the highways of Texas. So that's important habitat as well. So, but like I said, if you have any questions, make sure you send them to us through the comment section. And then, Chrissy, do we have any other questions?
Not at this point.
Not at
So
this.
feel free to put them in the chat.
All right, yeah, put the questions in the chat. So what you're going to see tonight with the bat flight here at Bracken is literally any minute now, and it's getting pretty dark. We actually have thunderstorms coming into the area tonight here in Texas. So we're actually going to get some rain, but the bats will start coming out of the cave. Now, Bracken Cave is 650 feet long. It's 124 feet wide at the floor and 117 feet floor to ceiling. So there's two large cavernous rooms inside the cave. And the bats are roosting all over the walls. You're looking at around 500 bats per square foot. So that's like, so if you have a piece of notebook paper size space, will have hundreds of bats hanging from it if it was inside the cave here. The bats are again roosting on the walls and the ceiling of the caves. Now this is a maternity roost, so Mexican free bat predatory. So they've migrated from Mexico, where they spend the winter, back into the Texas Hill Country to roost in the caves that we have here. And most of the mating goes on in Mexico prior to their migrating, but they'll be here all summer long. We'll start having babies in early June, and a baby bat's called a pup. So the mothers will have one baby bat each. And the adult bat is about the size of my two thumbs together, with about a 10-inch wingspan. She weighs 15 grams. The baby, though, when they're born, are about the size of a dime, so they're really small. And when after they're first born, the baby bat literally crawls up on their chest and hangs on to the mommy while she goes out and forages for food. So actually, the bats are starting to come out. I'm going to move off to the side so you can see them. But if you look to your right, you'll see the bats coming out right here. And they're going to fill the bowl of this sinkhole as they swirl around tonight.
We have a question, Fran.
Okay.
This is the largest colony in the States, correct?
Bracken Cave is the largest colony of bats in the world. With our mommies and babies, we're looking at around 20 million bats.
And are there bats in every state?
Every state, yes, we have bats in every state here in North America. So the bats are swirling around. They're just starting to get up to treetop level. And we'll start seeing them start streaming away as they fly downrange.
Someone wants to know, what can you do to help bats, protect bats, especially in Texas?
So one of the things you can do to help bats and support bats is you can become a member of BCI. Follow us on our social media platforms and our newsletter and become a member. So that's one thing you can do to help our projects. Another thing you do is put in a bat garden in your backyard or the land. You can go to our website, batcon.org, and we've got information about the different plants native plants that you can put in your garden that'll attract mostly moths, night flying insects. You also, it's also nice because you'll get birds during the day, and you'll get bats in that area at night. So that's another thing that you can do. Can you guys hear the vortex, the bats swirling in front of us? If you can't hear on the phone, one of the things, if you go to our website, we actually have a recording of the bat flight vortex, the bat NATO. We call it a bat NATO. And you can actually download that to your phone or your computer to listen to it. It's really cool. Now they're up at treetop level. They'll be streaming away, trying to get downrange. They're going to fly at least 60 miles from here to forage for food. So they cover a long distance. The Mexican free-tailed bat is our fastest animal. They've been clocked around 98 miles an hour in powered flight, so they can cover a lot of ground really fast. And they're right over the top of our heads here.
Here, another question. Can you cover the types of habitats that bats live in?
So bats live in most of your different habitats. So we anywhere from your swamplands, marshes and swamps, because they usually only forage within 5 miles of where they roost. Out in the desert, parts of the southern United States and western Texas, out in those Chihuahuan desert areas, the bats are roosted out in those areas. Here in the hill country, we have this oak juniper woodland, so a mixture of savannas and oak juniper woodland. So just about any habitat, even our rainforests and jungles in different parts of the world, just about any habitat that we have other than the Arctic and Antarctic, we have bats. We have a hawk right there diving down, trying to catch a bat for dinner as well. I'm not sure if you can catch that on the video. But we have Swainson's hawks, red-tailed hawks, peregrine falcons are some of our uh, raptor-type predators. When it gets really dark, our barred owls and our great horned owls will come in. Down near the entrance to the cave, we'll get different sized snakes. Our coach whip snake that we looked at earlier, our Texas rat snakes, and then our western diamondback rattlesnakes. So those large snakes will try to catch bats as well.
Are there bats that eat other animals?
Yeah, so like our ghost-faced bat will eat small birds, small rodents like mice, and even smaller bats. So we also have a hog-nosed bat likes to eat fish. They have really long toenails, and they'll drag the toenails in the water and catch minnow-sized fish.
We just got another question. How is the health of this colony, and do they suffer from white nose syndrome?
So the bats here at Bracken Cave are doing really well. This is protected habitat. We have 1,500 acres surrounding the cave that's protected by Bat Conservation International and has been for over 30 years. So these guys are doing really well. And since the Mexican free-tailed bats are migratory, they're not impacted by the white nose syndrome disease. That's affecting our hibernating bats.
Another commenter wants to know thoughts on bat houses and how do you get advice on bat houses?
So we have a question about bat houses. If you go to our website, batcon.org, and you can search bat houses, we have lots of information about how to build one. We have actually some blueprints that you can to build a bat house, and also where to put it up, how to put it up. So bat houses is definitely an option to help bats. Can you guys hear the bats, the bat NATO?
And how long will it take the bats to leave the cave tonight?
So this bat NATO that you're going to see is going to be going on for about 3.5 hours tonight. So it goes on for a really long time. Those of you that have access to your on your computer, if you pull up on the Doppler site for the Texas Hill Country, you can actually see this emergence on Doppler radar as a cloud starts forming over the top of the cave as the bats move away from the cave.
Is there a way for people, probably in different places, to volunteer to care for bats?
You could check with your area rehabbers that definitely could use. Usually, they need some help. Any one number of your different animal rehabbers in the city or county that you live in probably can use some help.
Can you talk a little bit about why they fly in a bat-NATO formation?
Yeah, so the bat NATO that helps the bats do a couple of things. We're down here low in the sinkhole. So if any of you have ever been on a small plane that they spiral up to altitude, it takes actually less energy to spiral up. So the bats use the vortex, the bat NATO, to spiral up out of this sinkhole so they can get up to treetop level as well. Now, Bracken Cave's colony of bats is made up of thousands of smaller colonies of bats. And one of the things we think the vortex or bat NATO helps with is getting those large groups, those large smaller colonies that are roosting on the ceiling of the cave. And when they drop off the ceiling of the cave, the vortex that you see outside is also going on inside the cave. So it allows those individuals in that colony to get together. So when they go out to forage for food and separate, they're with their roosting colony.
Going back real quick to the volunteer question, here in San Antonio, can people volunteer for Bracken?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, you can click on either Christy Miners or my email address on staff or ask questions, and we can put you on the volunteer list here at Bracken Cave.
And can you remind our listeners one more time how many bats are in this colony?
Right, so here at Bracken Cave, just outside of San Antonio, right now we have about 8 to 10 million pregnant female bats. And in early June, they're all going to start having babies. So that's when we jump up to around 20 million bats in the cave.
We have a question about wanting to know how many species of bats drink blood.
So out of the 1,466 some species of bats all over the world, only 3 species blood is their food. And 2 of those 3 species, it's actually avian blood or bird blood. So only 1 species likes mammal blood, and they're down in Central America, and so they don't suck the blood out of the animal when they make it. The bite is like the size of a mosquito bite, so really tiny bite. And they have these anticoagulant enzymes in their saliva, and they just lick the blood off of the bite.
How old do bats live to?
So the Mexican free-tailed bats on average live, in most species, around 12, 14 years in the wild. The oldest bat that we know of was a Myota species of bat in Russia that a few years back was when it was recaptured. From the time it had been tagged the first time to recapture was 41 years. So that's a long time for such a small mammal to live. Guys, see the vortex right here? Hopefully you can hear it.
I think they can. We have another viewer who wants to know if they go back into the cave the same way.
Right. So when they return early in the morning, the bats do have a couple different ways of getting back into the cave. Just before sunrise, we literally have a reverse vortex, so they spiral back into the cave. But right at sunrise, first light, that's when the hawks can see them, and spiraling in is too slow. So literally at that point, the bats from hundreds of feet up will start dive bombing into the cave. So literally, where we're standing here, it rains bats. And if you want to see that, you could go to one of our web cameras that we have. So we have a webcam on our website, and you can check that out, and a lot of other videos on our YouTube channel. But you can check out our live webcam and watch the bats come out. And we actually have a webcam down in the cave as well, and you can see the bats when inside the cave when they're coming out, and a lot of times you can see some of the other animals near the entrance of the cave. So I highly recommend going to the webcam.
Can you talk a little bit about what the biggest threats to bats are?
Okay, so worldwide, some of the biggest threat to bats, of course, is loss of habitat between clear cutting and burning of rainforest, and any development in the area, like in the Texas Hill Country, there's a lot of development going on. So loss of habitat is a big threat to bats. Our white nose syndrome is a big threat to our North American hibernating bats. Wind turbines, wind farms are killing hundreds of thousands of bats every year because they're in their migratory or foraging range as well. So those are some of the biggest threats that we have to bats right now. But there's more information about that kind of stuff on our website as well.
Another viewer wants to know if all bats use echolocation to find food.
Yeah. So most of our, especially our insect eating and our night hunting bats, our carnivores and insectivores, will use echolocation. But our fruit bats and some of our pollinating bats, they're usually more using more their scent and sound eyesight to navigate. Because that's one of the myths out there about bats, is that bats are blind, and none of our species of bats are blind.
And what kind of fruit do bats like to eat?
So you'll see them eating papayas, mangoes, bananas, just figs, to name some of the more common named ones.
Do these bats come out every night like this?
Yeah. So unless we get a pouring rain here at the cave, we have emergencies like this every night from basically early March through November. Getting pretty dark. Can they still see the bats?
All right, good question. What is your favorite species of bat?
What's my favorite species of bats? Well, I like Mexican free-tailed bats because this is my office, but I really like pallid bats. They're really scrappy. Pallid bats love scorpions. It's like chocolate candy bar to a pallid bat. And what's cool is they can hear a scorpion run across the ground from about 15, 16 feet away, and they just fly over and just jump on the scorpion and start munching on it. So they're a pretty scrappy bat.
And if you could remind for new people who joined where we're located.
Yes, for those of you that's just joining us, my name is Fran Hutchins. We're here at Bat Conservation International's Bracken Cave Preserve. And behind me, we're watching the Bat NATO at Bracken Cave. So Bracken Cave is the home to the largest colony of bats in the world. This is a maternity roost for Mexican free-tailed bats. So these are all pregnant female bats that are coming out here. And then in June, they're going to have babies. And so by the time we get around to June, there'll be around 20 million bats in the cave. The babies will start flying around the end of July.
A follow-up question about babies. Do they ever have more than one at a time?
The Mexican free-tailed bats and most species of bats just have one baby. Now our eastern red bats sometimes can have 2 to 4 babies, and they roost in the trees that are here in the Texas Hill Country.
And how can people come see this in person?
Right, so if you go to the website, batcon.org, and search for Bracken Cave, we've got a calendar of all of our tours, and you can check on the dates and see what's available, and come out this summer and catch a bat flight live with us.
All right, and then some of our viewers want to know what types of work BCI does as an organization.
So besides doing our educational talks and work like we're doing here at Bracken, either research, so we're researching white nose syndrome, trying to come up with some solutions to that problems. We've got research programs going on with the wind turbines and wind farms, trying to come up with ways of protecting bats from wind turbines. Our agave project, we're literally collecting agave seed and growing them in nurseries to replant agave plants so that 12, 15, 18 years from now, when those plants bloom, they'll be food for our pollinating bats. And one of the cool things with that research is we're using eDNA. We're literally swabbing the flowers of the agaves when they're blooming to see what species of bat are feeding on those agave plants. So that's really cool. We've got other projects going on in Jamaica, Tahiti, Rwanda, Kenya, where we're protecting areas, and in some cases purchasing additional products to protect those types of habitats. We got a lot of information on all those projects on our website, backon.org.
Another question about the juveniles. When they start to fly, do they stay close to their mothers?
So when the mother baby's first born, it climbs up on the mother's chest and hangs on. And after about 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks, the baby is growing so fast it literally is too heavy for the mother Mexican free-tailed bat to carry her baby. So she'll put the baby, who can't fly yet and won't be flying for about 5 weeks, in what we call the nursery section of the cave. This is the spots in the cave are pink because the bats are still hairless. Um, and then that's where the babies will stay until they start flying on their own. And what's really cool is the mother's only nursed their baby, so she has to find her baby amongst all those other baby bats. And she does that with scent and sound. So she literally calls out to her baby, flies over there where the babies are, and lands and sniffs around so she finds hers.
All right, it's pretty dark, but got another couple questions. Where are the males hanging out?
So after the mating's all over, the males form these bachelor colonies in smaller caves, some of our bridge roosts, some of our tree roosts. So they're in other places. So this is mostly just the pregnant females here at these maternity roosts.
And then where do the females go the rest of the year?
So they'll migrate down to Mexico, and they're spread out all over Mexico, and they're roosting in caves and buildings and bridges, all kinds of different roosts throughout Mexico.
What is a bat's gestation period?
Mexican free-tail bats about 90 days.
I think the bats are looking really cool against the backlit sky right now.
Yeah, so unfortunately that's light pollution backlighting the bats, but yeah, so.
One viewer wants to know, if bats carry any contagious diseases.
There's still a lot of research going on about what the different diseases that bats have and carry, and there's more information about that on our website. The biggest thing, bats are wild animals, so you don't want to be handling any kind of wild animal, especially bats and other animals that you find on the ground or something like that. Just don't be handling them, and you won't have to worry about it. Can you see them? They're right on top of us.
I'll give you a minute to take in the view. Are the bats affected by light pollution?
Yeah, so light pollution does affect the foraging habitat, foraging dynamics of bats when they're out foraging for food, because they do have really good eyesight, and also too, if they're around the lights and stuff, predators can see them, the owls, so they will alternate their foraging areas to stay away from all those bright lights.
All right, I think that's all of our questions.
Yeah, it's kind of dark now, so we're going to sign off again. Go to our website, backcon.org. Continue to follow us on our social media platforms. You got our webcams that you can see what's going on. We have infrared lights on those webcams, so you can even see in the dark with those. So I highly recommend going to our YouTube channel to see other videos and the live streaming of our webcam. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and spending Bat Appreciation Day with us here at Bracken Cave and continued support for Bat Conservation International. And we'll see you again here at the Bat Cave.